Okay, so Act 3, Scene 1, Mercutio teases Benvolio and tries to make fun of Tybalt, but Tybalt is determined to challenge Romeo to a duel. When Romeo refuses the challenge, Mercutio draws his sword. In the fighting that follows, both Mercutio and Tybalt are killed. Once again, the citizens of Verona rush to the scene and the prince pronounces a sentence of banishment. So, let's have a look at what we want to read. Okay, so Romeo arrives on page 59. Enter Romeo. Would someone like to read with me? Any volunteers? No? Put up a cross if you don't want to read with me. That way you're not just ignoring my question. Brianna or Hannah? No. Yeah, or Hannah, you know, maybe. Brianna, I don't see anything from you. Do you want to read with me? No? Okay, thank you. All right. Tybalt says, well, peace be with you, sir. Here comes my man. And Mercutio says, well, but I'll be hanged, sir, if he wear your livery. Marry, go before to field. He'll be your follower. Your worship in that sense may call him man. So I'll be hanged, sir, if he wear your livery. So the livery is like if he wears your sword. Tybalt says, Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better term than this. Thou art a villain. And villain is like a peasant, so it's a really big insult to someone like Romeo. And Romeo says, Tybalt, the reason that I have to love thee doth make excuse the appertaining rage to such a greeting. Villain am I none, therefore farewell. I see thou knowest me not. So Romeo says, I have a reason to love you, which excuses the incredibly bad insult you just made me. Tybalt says, boy, this shall not excuse the injuries that thou hast done me, therefore turn and draw. I do protest I never injured thee, but I love thee better than thou canst devise, till thou shalt know the reason of my love, and so good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as my own, be satisfied. So what does he mean here? But love thee better than thou, I do protest I never injured thee, but love thee better than thou canst devise, till thou shalt know the reason of my love, and so, good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as my own, be satisfied. What does he mean there? Good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as my own. Hannah?
He's saying that he can take Juliet's name as his own, pretty much.
Yeah, so he's saying that he feels he loves the name Capulet now as much as he loves his own name. And we obviously know that that's because he loves Juliet. So now Mercutio tries to get in on it. And Tybalt and Mercutio start to kind of thrust with their swords. And they fight, and Romeo says, draw Benvolio, beat down their weapons. Gentlemen, for shame, forbear this outrage. Tybalt, Mercutio, the prince expressly hath forbid this bandying in Verona streets. So he tries to stop the fight, but Tybalt wounds Mercutio. Hold, Tybalt, good Mercutio. And Tybalt and his followers leave. Mercutio says, I am hurt. A plague or both your houses. I am sped. Is he gone and hath nothing? So has he left and he hasn't been even injured? And Mercutio says, when he says, I am sped, he means I am killed. Benvolio says, what, art thou hurt? Mercutio says, aye, scratch, scratch. Marry, 'tis enough. Where is my page? Go, villain, fetch a surgeon. And so the page runs to get a doctor, a surgeon, which, as you can imagine, what kind of medical attention would he have probably gotten in the 1600s? A high-quality medical attention? I don't think they were sending him off to the emergency room. Yeah, Caleb said not very good. Yeah, so, I mean, a surgeon's not going to be able to do much, really. I don't even know if they knew how to do stitches back then. Romeo says, courage, man, the hurt cannot be much. Mercutio says, "No, 'tis not so deep as well, tis not so deep as a well, nor so wide as a church door, but 'tis enough, 'twill serve. Ask for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man. I am peppered, I am warrant for this world." What kind of pun is he making there? Ask for me tomorrow, and you will find me a grave man. Hannah?
He's saying that he'll be a grave man, so he'll be in his grave,
Yeah,
but it's
excellent.
also like he's sad.
Yeah, exactly. So ask for me tomorrow and you shall find me a grave man. So he'll be unhappy, but he'll also be in the grave. I'm peppered, I warrant for this world, a plague on both your houses. Zounds, a dog, a rat, a mouse, a cat to scratch a man to death, a braggart, a rogue, a villain that fights by the book of arithmetic. Why the devil came you between us? I was hurt under your arm. So he's basically blaming Romeo's intervention, and that's what gave Tybalt the opportunity to kill him. And Romeo says, "I thought all for the best. Help me into some house, Benvolio, or I shall faint. A plague on both your houses. They have made worms meat of me. I have it, and soundly too. Your houses." What does he mean, a plague on both your houses? Who is he speaking to? What does he mean by that? Brianna, what do you think? A plague on both your houses.
I'm not sure what he means by plague, but I suppose by houses he means the two families.
Yes, excellent. So he means on the Montagues and the Capulets. Who knows what he means by a plague on both your houses? Caleb, what does he mean by a plague?
Like, it's kind of like not really a curse, but like everything that they don't do well in the future is like the opposite of good luck. It's like
Yeah. So kind of like a curse, but not really.
upon them.
Yeah, so he's wishing bad things upon them. So, traditionally a plague might mean like a plague of rats or a plague of locusts or that kind of thing. So yeah, a whole lot of bad things to happen to them. Excellent, thank you both. So Mercutio and Benvolio leave. Benvolio helps him off. And Romeo says, "This gentleman, the prince's near ally, my very friend, hath got his mortal hurt in my behalf, my reputation stained with Tybalt's slander. Tybalt, that an hour hath been my cousin. O sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valor's steel." What does he mean there? So Tybalt, that an hour hath been my cousin. O sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valor's steel. What do you think he's saying there? Thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valor's steel. Anyone want to have a bit of a guess? Hannah?
He sort of softened Romeo's attitude towards the Capulet.
Excellent. Yes. So when we say the word effeminate means for a male to act feminine, and so he's saying you've kind of softened me up like a girl and made me not want to fight. So when he says my temper, he means his character. So and in my character, softened valor's steel. So softened the steel. Benvolio says, "Oh, Romeo, brave Mercutio is dead. That gallant spirit hath espied the clouds which too untimely here did scorn the earth. This day's black fate on mo days doth depend. This but begins the woe, others must end." And Tybalt comes back. And Benvolio says, "Here comes the furious Tybalt back again." And Romeo, alive in triumph, and Mercutio slain, away to heaven respective lenity, and fiery-eyed fury be my conduct now. Now, Tybalt, take the villain back again, that late thou gave me, for Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, saying for thine to keep him company, either thou or I or both must go with him. And I really like this line. "For Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him." What do you think he means there? So for Mercutio, Caleb?
Well, they're saying that they're gonna because he's dead. One of them's gonna have to die now, and they're gonna fight, and one of them will go. Either one, whoever wins, will not go.
Yeah, excellent. So Mercutio's only just died, and Romeo's saying he shouldn't have to go alone. He's a little way. Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, waiting for one of us to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him. Tybalt says, "Thou wretched boy that didst consort him here, shalt with him hence." And Romeo says, "This shall determine that." And they start to fight, and Tybalt falls. And Benvolio says, "Romeo, away, be gone. The citizens are up and Tybalt slain. Stand not amazed. The prince will doom thee death if thou art taken. Hence, be gone, away." And Romeo says, "Oh, I am fortune's fool." And Benvolio says, "Why dost thou stay?" And then Romeo leaves. And then the citizens kind of come in. So normally on stage, there'd just be like a crowd of random people. And the citizens say, "Which way ran he that murdered Mercutio? Tybalt, that murderer, which way ran he?" And Benvolio says, "There lies that Tybalt." And then there's some other citizens, and one of them says, "Up, sir, go with me. I charge thee in the prince's name, obey." And the prince arrives with Lord Montague, Lord Capulet, and their wives, and some other people. And the prince starts to ask what's going on, and Lady Capulet gets quite emotional. She says, "Tybalt, my cousin, oh, my brother's child, oh, prince, oh, cousin, husband, oh, the blood is spilled of my dear kinsman. Princess, thou art true for blood of ours, shed blood of Montague, oh, cousin, cousin." And the prince asked Benvolio to explain who began this bloody fray. And Benvolio says, he explains it all. "Tybalt here slain, whom Romeo's hand did slay. Romeo that spoke him fair, bade him bethink how nice the quarrel was, and urged withal your high displeasure. All this, uttered with gentle breath, calm look, knees humbly bowed, could not take truce with the unruly spleen of Tybalt deaf to peace, but that he tilts with piercing steel at bold Mercutio's heart, who, all as hot, turns deadly point to point, and with a martial scorn, with one hand beats cold death aside, and with the other sends it back to Tybalt, whose dexterity retorts it. Romeo, he cries aloud, hold, friends, part, and swifter than his tongue, his agile arm beats down their fatal points, and twixt them rushes underneath whose arm an envious thrust from Tybalt hit the life of stout Mercutio, and then Tybalt fled. But by and by comes back to Romeo, who had but newly entertained revenge, and toot they go like lightning, for, ere I could draw to part them, was stout Tybalt slain, and as he fell did Romeo turn and fly. This is the truth, or let Benvolio die. So he's saying, I swear on my life that this is what happened. So he explains that Tybalt arrived, so Tybalt's lying here dead, Romeo killed him. The same Romeo that spoke him fair and bade him bethink how nice the quarrel was, and urged withal, so tried to stop the fight, and he settled this with a gentle breath, a calm look, and knees humbly bowed. But Tybalt was deaf to this cry for peace, and he fought with Mercutio. Romeo tried to break them apart, and that's when Mercutio got killed. And then Tybalt left, he came back, and Mercutio was newly entertained by revenge and started to fight, and then Tybalt was slain. And Capulet says, he is a kinsman to the Montague. Affection makes him false. He speaks not true. Some 20 of them fought in this black strife, and all those 20 could but kill one life. I beg for justice, which thou, prince, must give. Romeo slew Tybalt. Romeo must not live. And the prince says, Romeo slew him. He slew Mercutio. Who now the price of his dear blood doth owe? Montague says, not Romeo, prince. He was Mercutio's friend. His fault concludes for what the law should end, the life of Tybalt. So Lord Montague, Romeo's dad, is saying that Tybalt killed Mercutio, and that means that his punishment is death, and Romeo dealt out the punishment. But the prince says, and for that offence immediately we do exile him hence. I have an interest in your hate's proceeding. My blood for your rude brawls doth lie a-bleeding. But I'll immerse you with so strong a fine that you shall all repent the loss of mine. I will be deaf to pleading and excuses. Nor tears nor prayers shall purchase out abuses. Therefore use none. Let Romeo hence in haste, else when he's found that hour is his last. Bear hence this body and attend our will. Mercy but murders, pardoning those that kill. So he has banished Romeo. He sent him to exile. And so Prince Aeschylus hears of this. I'm just flipping back to the summary now. Prince Aeschylus hears of the sequence of events from Benvolio's mouth, and he listens to the pleas of Lady Capulet and Lord Montague, who speak as representatives of the warring families. Aeschylus promises strict justice. His first ruling is to banish Romeo from Verona. Let Romeo hence in haste, else, when he is found, that hour is his last. He can neither do more nor less than this. Romeo has broken the law and must be duly punished, otherwise all civil law will break down and a state of anarchy will result. Mercy but murders, pardoning those that kill. So he's saying it's not safe to pardon those that kill. Okay, and then we have scene 2. Meanwhile, Juliet is back at the house, back at her house, waiting for Romeo to arrive for their wedding night. I'm just looking ahead. This is a long act, so we're not going to get through it all today. So scene 2, ignorant of what is happening in Verona's streets, Juliet longs for night to come when Romeo will leap to these arms untalked of and unseen. She is passionately in love, with a physical longing to possess Romeo and to be possessed by him. She is in an ecstasy of impatience, but the nurse shatters her dreams with the confused reports of death and banishment. Tybalt and Romeo. Juliet's heart and mind are torn by conflicting emotions as she struggles to understand what the nurse is saying. At the end of the scene, she subsides into grief for the loss of her husband and sends the nurse to seek for him at Friar Lawrence's cell. Why would it be so conflicting for Juliet to hear that news? Brianna, what do you think? Why would it be so conflicting for Juliet to hear the news that Romeo had killed Tybalt?
Because I don't know, maybe it.
So how is Juliet related to Tybalt? Do you remember?
I don't know.
So he's her cousin. So from someone else, maybe if your husband killed your cousin, why would that make you feel conflicted, Rebecca? What do you think?
I don't really know, to be honest.
Well, I mean, do you think that, how would she be feeling about Romeo? How would she be feeling towards Romeo?
Worried?
Yeah, worried. And how would she be feeling about what happened to Tybalt?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. Okay, so, well, I mean, he's her cousin, so we can assume that she's going to be upset about the fact that he's been killed. And we can assume that she's also going to feel, confused because it's her husband that killed him. So there's quite a conflict going on there. So let's just have a look at a couple of lines from that scene. So Juliet's waiting back at the house, and she has this lovely monologue here. Gallop apace, you fiery-footed steeds, towards Phoebus's lodging, such a wagoner as Phaeton would whip you to the west, and bring in cloudy night immediately. Spread thy close curtain, love-performing night, that runaways' eyes may wink, and Romeo leap to these arms, untalked of and unseen. Lovers can see to do their amorous rites by their own beauties, or if love is blind, it best agrees with night. Come, Sibyl Night, thou sober-suited matron all in black, and learn me how to lose a winning match. Played for a pair of stainless maidenhoods, hood my unmanned blood bathing in my cheeks, why thy black mantle till strange love grown bold. With think true love acted simple modesty. Come night, come Romeo, come thou day and night, for thou wilt lie upon the wings of night, whiter than new snow on a raven's back. Come, gentle night, come, loving, black-browed night, give me my Romeo, and when I shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night, and pay no worship to the garish sun. Oh, I have bought the mansion of a love, but not possessed it, and though I am sold, not yet enjoyed. So tedious is this day, as is the night before some festival to an impatient child that hath new robes but may not wear them. Oh, here comes my nurse. Caleb has said ultimate family quarrel. Yes, pretty much. I don't know if anyone has had like a brutal family argument on Christmas Day or something. but which hopefully has never ended in like your boyfriend killing your cousin, but it's kind of like the ultimate family quarrel. Caleb, you're exactly right. So my favorite little part of this is from here. Give me my Romeo, and when I shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love at night, and pay no worship to the garish sun. Oh, I have bought the mansion of a love, but not possessed it, and though I am sold, not yet enjoyed. So tedious is this day, as is the night before some festival to an impatient child that hath new robes and may not wear them. So you can really pick up kind of her impatience, her excitement. She can't wait for Romeo to get back. She says, I have bought the mansion of a love, but not possessed it. So she's gotten married and she's, bought this big love, but she hasn't actually gotten to enjoy it yet because she hasn't actually got to see him. And the nurse comes in with a rope ladder. She said, and Juliet says, and she brings news, and every tongue that speaks but Romeo's name speaks heavenly eloquence. Now, nurse, what news? What hast thou there the cords that Romeo bade thee fetch? Nurse says, aye, the cords, and throws them down. So when they're talking about the cords, they mean a rope ladder. And Juliet says, me, what news? Why dost thou wring thy hands? And the nurse says, well a day, he's dead, we are undone, lady, we are undone. Alack the day, he's gone, he's killed, he's dead. And Juliet says, can heaven be so envious? And she means spiteful. And the nurse says, Romeo can, though heaven cannot. Oh, Romeo, whoever would have thought it, Romeo. And the Juliet is getting confused. She thinks that it's Romeo that's dead. And she says, what devil art thou dost torment me thus? This torture should be wrought in dismal hell. Hath Romeo slain himself? Say thou, but I, and that bare vow I shall poison more than the death-darting eye of cockatrice. I am not I, if there be such an eye. Or those eyes shut that make the answer I. If he be slain, say I, or if not, no. Brief sounds determine of my weal or woe. And so the nurse keeps going on and on about how if someone's died, but she doesn't actually say who it is. And eventually she says, oh, Tybalt, the best friend I had, oh, Tybalt, oh, courteous Tybalt, honest gentleman, that ever I should live to see thee dead. And Juliet says, what storm is this that blows so contrary? Is Romeo slaughtered and is Tybalt dead? My dearest cousin and my dearer lord, then dreadful trumpet sound the general doom, for who is living if those two are gone? They're both very dramatic. And the nurse says, Tybalt is gone and Romeo is banished. Romeo that killed him, he is banished. And Juliet says, oh God, did Romeo's hand shed Tybalt's blood? And she kind of realizes what's going on and she launches into like a really long kind of like, my life is over, which goes on for several pages. Let me see if I can quickly find this scene on YouTube. Give me one moment, guys. I'm just going to mute myself while I try and find this. Okay, no luck, unfortunately. I found something else that we'll use a little bit later. Okay, so basically, Juliet sends him, oh, find him, give this ring to my true knight and bid him come to take his last farewell. So send him to take my wedding ring and tell him to come and see me and say goodbye. So then we have scene 3. So the friar is trying to calm Romeo, preaching the virtue of stoic resignation to fate and pointing out that things might be worse. Romeo is condemned to banishment, not to death. But for Romeo, banishment is worse than death. When the nurse tells of Juliet's grief, Romeo's distress increases and he is ready to kill himself. The friar, however, has a plan, and after another lecture, which is much admired by the nurse, he takes control of the situation. The nurse she's a little bit all over the place. For example, Romeo says, there is no world without Verona walls, but purgatory, torture, hell itself. Hence banished is banished from the world, and world's exile is death. Then banished is death mistermed, calling death banished. Thou cuttest my head off with a golden axe and smilest upon the stroke that murders me. he is basically, he's saying that banishment is worse than death. He says, "Ha, banishment, be merciful, say death, for exile hath more terror in his look, much more than death. Do not say banishment." In those days, outside of the walls of Verona would have basically been just like no man's land. So it would have been like, there would have just been nothing out there. And there wouldn't have really been any life for a nobleman like him. You know, he doesn't have a trade. He would have never worked before, so he'd be pretty concerned about what kind of life he's going to live out there. Okay, so the nurse arrives. And he gives Friar Lawrence gives a very, very long speech on page 72 and 73. And Friar Lawrence sends him off to see Juliet to say goodbye. And then we have scene 4, back at Capulet's house. So much has happened in such a short time that the characters themselves find it difficult to remember what day it is. Lord Capulet has to ask Paris, but soft, what day is this? It is still only Monday. Juliet has gone to bed, so you have to remember Romeo and Juliet met on Sunday night. It's now still only Monday. Juliet has gone to bed, and Lord Capulet himself would have been abed an hour ago had it not been for the presence of the County Paris, who wants to know whether or not he can marry Juliet. Capulet reaches a sudden decision. Paris shall marry his daughter, and the wedding will be held that same week on Thursday. Clearly, fast decisions run in the family. It will not be a grand occasion because the family is in mourning for the death of Tybalt. There will be some half a dozen friends, and there an end. It is time for bed. In fact, it is so very, very late that we may call it early by and by. So the deal is done. He's agreed that Paris can marry Juliet within the week. So on Thursday, and it's Monday now. Scene 5. For Romeo and Juliet, it is far too early. Romeo has obeyed the friar, climbed the balcony to Juliet's bedroom, and consummated the marriage, whose religious ceremony was performed on Monday afternoon. So in those days, without the physical consummation, the marriage would not have been complete. The vows would have been irrevocable, and Romeo and Juliet would not have been man and wife. Now they must be separated. The bird song they hear comes from the lark, the first bird to sing in the morning, and the light of the east heralds the rising sun. Romeo must save his life by escaping to Mantua. The lovers' farewells are interrupted by the nurse, warning that Lady Capulet is looking for her daughter. Romeo climbs down from the balcony, and Juliet, standing above, imagines that she sees him as one dead in the bottom of a tomb. Lady Capulet probably enters through the curtained area below Juliet's balcony, so that thing we talked about on the stage. Juliet's mother is cold and unsympathetic. She does not understand her daughter's grief, of course, and naturally assumes the tears are for Tybalt. Juliet's words deceive Lady Capulet, but their meaning is clear to the audience when she speaks of her anguish and her longing to be close to the man who murdered her cousin. She speaks politely to her mother, addressing her formally as Madam and Your Ladyship, and appearing to be thankful for the promised day of joy that is so unexpected. But when she learns of the nature of the celebration, Juliet forgets all her obedience and good manners. The news is a shock. Obstinate refusal to marry Paris is the only possible reaction. Juliet's father enters. His own distress at the death of his nephew turns to sympathy with what he believes to be Juliet's grief for Tybalt. But sorrow instantly turns to rage when he learns that Juliet has refused the offered marriage. He bullies and threatens, cursing his daughter and swearing at the nurse. In a storm of anger, he leaves the stage, followed by his wife, who, like him, has disowned their child. Do as thou wilt, for I have done with thee. So Lady Capulet, she's not exactly very maternal. Juliet demands comfort from her nurse, whom she has loved and trusted for 14 years, but the nurse has no comfort to offer. She too has experienced grief and shock at the events of the previous day, and now she can only think of the most practical way of getting out of all their difficulties. No one knows about the marriage to Romeo. He is now banished and will never dare to return to Verona and claim Juliet as his wife. It would be so easy if Juliet were to forget about Romeo and marry Paris, who after all is a lovely gentleman. Juliet is completely alone. And that is the end of Act 3. Now, I'm not going to read any more to you from that final scene because you guys are going to read it for homework using Curriculate. I'm really interested to see how you go with it. I've been playing around with it a little bit and I think it's quite good. This is one that I was already made up, so I didn't create the questions, so I'm not sure. I think the questions look like they're at a good level for you guys, challenging but not too challenging, but see how you go. Have a guess if you don't know the answer to something. Caleb?
Why don't you get the answer wrong?
If you get the answer wrong, you'll still be able to move on to the next section. And I'm not going to penalise you in any way. I'm not going to give you a bad mark if you get it wrong. It's just mainly seeing how it goes. And the questions are more to help you engage with the reading. So it's kind of like you have to think carefully about it if you have to answer the question.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions about that? Okay, so your homework this week, which will be on Daymap, is to read Act 3 on Curriculate and begin working on your assessment tasks. So otherwise, have a great week and please make sure that you are on time next Tuesday. So, Hannah.
So when are the assessment tasks due?
Week 9. So we're in week 6 at the moment, so we've got 4 weeks. So week 6, week 7, week 8, week 9, 4 weeks. They'll be due like at the end of week 9. So you kind of, I would think of it as 2 weeks per assessment task. And Hannah, did the other DVD arrive for you?
Yeah, I watched it this morning.
Okay, excellent. And so that one was okay for you? Yep, good. Okay. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, please also take the time to watch the movie this week. Rebecca, I will email you the instructions on how to access the movie online. Everyone else, I think, has a DVD. But yeah, have a great week. So see you, Brianna.